Christian nationalism in the state of Vermont. That's what I'll be speaking about. I will quickly talk about Vermont, and I got to get on to the national and world issues because today is one of the most crucial days in the war that we're in with the jihadists in Iraq and Iran. So, but quickly, in Vermont right now, I have responded to Guy Page's editorial that he spoke on his broadcast about my exposing him as either being incompetent or controlled opposition in his denying the public to be able to hear when the public hearing on the ICE issue in Vermont was. I'll later go into detail on this if he wants to continue. I put another letter in his paper to end the issue. If that ends it, that's fine. I don't intend to go on to it. It's just unfortunate that the radio broadcast that he has access to could be useful for the conservative movement in the state, but it's not. It's not, either through his incompetence or his controlled opposition, being controlled opposition by the Republican Party following the leadings of their governor, Phil Scott, who is a liberal who implemented same-sex marriage in the state of Vermont by his vote in the Senate and continues to attempt to obstruct anything that the president does. So at this point, if this is the last word, that's fine with me, because all radio broadcast at 11 o'clock on the radio does is give opportunity for people to get to a public hearing, with the opportunity for the television broadcast, ABC, CBS, NBC, and PBS, to cover it statewide. Because the reality is, in this state, with one media market, the general public doesn't believe it really happened until it's on one of those three television stations, which are all obviously liberal. Their FCC licenses give them the ability to broadcast statewide, and that's what the public sees. Until it's there, the general public doesn't really believe it's an issue. So, and then it can affect legislature. It can affect votes in the elections. So I'm going to go on now to speak about possibly the second greatest president in the United States, Donald Trump. Today, he had a master move in bringing Iran, Islamic government, to a total surrender in the war. I fully support in his efforts and his actions in the war. It had to be done. The jihadists cannot have a nuclear weapon, and now they don't. He is about to change world politics for the foreseeable future, with peace in the Middle East. During my whole lifetime, I never imagined that there would be peace in the Middle East, where Israel would be working with the Arab countries, and it's about to happen. some conservatives are upset because he didn't, at 8 o'clock at his deadline, he didn't do a massive bombing on the infrastructure of Iran. That 90 minutes before, he received a message from the Iranian parliament. I believe it's the parliament. It's hard to tell who he's negotiating with. That they would agree to his demands for unconditional surrender through the Pakistanis' negotiation. It looks good. 2 weeks. Our military is not leaving. We're not leaving the Gulf. In 2 weeks, he can resume. Now, why I say a lot of you conservatives and those people who are compassionate and want to see the Iranian people to be free, think, well, he should have just done it, because they're going to go right back to massacring the populations. They massacred 30 to 40,000 of their own citizens. Shot them in the street and massacred them. Mass graves. In the last 2 or 3 weeks, they anyone who walked out of their house, they'd shoot them. That's why they didn't come out in the street. Because the situation is, they don't have firearms in their homes like us in America does. They don't arm themselves. They can't come together and resist the government, and the Republican Guard can simply massacre them like they have. But now, secretly, which we didn't really understand till now, the United States has been gun running. We've been sending large amounts of firearms, pistols, rifles, military grade weapons into Iran through the Kurds. In 2 weeks, you're going to have more weapons. Eventually, there will be an uprising, because Trump was successful in killing off most of the Muslim clerics, the Ayatollahs. The Ayatollahs are the same as the Nazi SS. Actually, they're both the SS. The SS was more like the Republican Guard, but the mullahs were like the Nazi elite that was around Hitler. They are the ones who had to be removed. It's a culture of death. They believe when they die that they're going to be with Allah and receive their reward. They had, like the SS had to do, is they had to be removed from being able to do it again. And that is majority. We'll find out more that that's happened more. 2 or 3 of the levels of leadership have been killed by either the Israelis or our forces. This is enabling the parliament members that are not clerics, that are not extremely religious, to come in now and speak to the negotiators from the American embassies in Pakistan. This is good. This is good. And this is good for Vermont. And in Vermont, media today, any of those that think they're conservative activists and broadcasters, don't even speak about it. They don't even speak about it. No, they're talking about, oh, we got other things, more issues. This is the most important issue. See, in these speeches from, I don't know how long I'll be able to do it, but I will deal with the most important issues that face the inhabitants of the former Grand Republic of Vermont, which is now the state of Vermont. I will speak the most important issues. I'm not going to get drawn off into these other little issues, which is not going to affect our future. So you can trust in Trump. He's proved himself over and over. And now the Democrat Marxists in the U.S. Congress are going to have a lot harder time. They still will do it, bringing impeachment against him, if they can take the House in the 26th election. They were preparing through their treasonous language, seditious, treasonous language for the last 24 hours. And even before that, with the 6 senators that were attempting to get the military to refuse orders, they're going to have a harder time to do it now because he's waiting 2 weeks. He didn't drop a nuclear bomb on him. That was today all the talk in the podcaster world and in the broadcast media, that he was going to drop a nuclear weapon on him. Even some of the most respected conservative speakers that I analyze every day, even some of them were saying, if he does it, if he drops that nuclear weapon, then I will go for the impeachment. He's not going to drop a nuclear weapon in Iraq. Just logically, the radiation is going to spread over Israel and in the area. Why would he do that? He has the most powerful military in the world. He has bunker bombs, daisy busters. He has all these things. He can destroy Tehran. He can do it. He can firebomb it like they did Tokyo. He can do. He could have done that. Why would he drop a nuclear weapon and take the threat of another nuclear power coming in, like China? China's not coming in now because China, at the last minute, told the Pakistanis, tell what's left of those Iranian mullahs to go along and do what Bush says. The Chinese ended this thing because the Chinese want Kharg Island to be intact. They want Kharg Island's oil coming out and around through the strait and over to the Chinese mainland, because if they don't, their economy is going to crash. And Trump would have, I believe, first took out Kharg Island and then slowly gone through the different areas of the country, turning the electricity off. He didn't want to do that because eventually it has to be restored. The people, I believe the majority of the people of Iran wanted that. They were willing to have their electricity turned off, their bridges destroyed, to get rid of this occupying Islamic cult military force, which has occupied it for 47 years. They were willing to have it all shut down and start over. I would have been. We would be in America if we were occupied now by Marxist Chinese for 47 years, had no weapons. Your wives are being shot in the street because they wouldn't wear a certain piece of cloth on their head, or expose their arms, and pulled off of buses and shot for smoking a cigarette. We would have been willing to have everything shut down and start over. We wouldn't have to. We don't have to right now because we have firearms in our house. We have the militia. That's every man and woman in the state being called up by the governor to protect ourselves with their personal firearms, which is protected by our Constitution, which is attempted to be removed from our homes by the democratic socialist Marxists. But that slowed down since Trump is in office. 3 more years is what we got. He's got 3 more years. That's why he doesn't have to worry about it. If we lose the midterms, that's okay. It's not preferable, but if we lose the midterms and it's impeachment investigations all day, every day, that's fine. They're not going to take the Senate. They're not going to be able to complete an impeachment. If they did, as I've said before, Vance will just take over. They're not going to impeach Vance after that. And if they do, there'll be another one of the administration in there. If they go that far, it's obvious that the people are going to resist that. But meanwhile, in those 3 years, he's going to be able to carry out the mass deportation of the invading trespassers, those caravans, those legions that marched through Mexico carrying Venezuelan Chinese flags on a uniform. As I said, if they had uniforms on, you'd saw it and you'd have a little more problem with it. Those military-age men that are now in our nation as the what do you call them? The Democratic Marxist Vermont activists call their neighbors, the ones that they protect, the ones that they raise riots in Chittenden County. They raised a riot. Legislators, state senators promoted and participated and inspired riots in Chittenden County on Dorset Street to protect an illegal DWI convicted trespasser from being deported out of the state. And this is I guess it's going to become now a conflict with what's left of the conservative movement in the state is the governor of the state, a Republican, Philip Scott, won't criticize or recognize that it was a riot. He tries to blame Trump. He blames Trump for everything because that's the only way. How can a Republican stay as governor, hold the office of governor for as many years as he had, unless he has submitted to all of the opposition's policies? And that's what he's done. He won't, none of the conservative activists in legislature who have press credentials will question him in a press conference. And that's what I really need to explain to people, that there is no journalists. There is no independent media. Everybody in the media has a either liberal or democratic influence, if they know it or not. They are influenced one way or another. You can take one word. I now can pick out the one word in their report that sways it either conservative or liberal. There's no unbiased record of what happened. I think only one is probably the legal notes in the legal postings in the paper for tax auction sales, these kind of things. Those are the only things that are totally unbiased legal documents that are being posted, because everybody in the media has a bias one way or the other. That's the way it has been since the founding of the nations. All the free press, all the protections for the free press was so that each side could print their own newspaper. That's what used to happen. They used to print their own newspaper. Now each side, either the liberal or the conservative, can print and publish in the same manner as the other, except once the nation went into broadcast. Once we developed a system to broadcast speech through radio waves through the air, and then video through the air into people's homes, then the government had to come in and regulate those wavelengths, those bands, and give out licenses for only several people could have access to that. And those licenses are actually free. That's why now ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS, and PBS is even worse. PBS was financed by the government. They have a special ability to broadcast to every citizen, every voter in a state, and they're supposed to have unbiased reporting. They don't. So then they say, well, that's okay. Then you have equal time. You give liberal and you give conservative. Well, how do you determine that? You see, now that there is a new platform in the past 25 years or so, where you're hearing me right now speak, there's more access for the opposition than there was before, because the liberals, and liberal is the easiest name to describe it, as liberal and conservative. Most people understand that. Usually I go in more in depth into the Marxist levels, and at the end of that is the communist totalitarians. But that is now the opportunity for the public to be able to hear the full story of both sides. Those of us who defend the Christian culture and the national borders of the Union of the 50 states and our territories within our empire. And I'll explain to you empire too. There's good empire, there's bad empire. And that is the problem. It's actually one of the only problems we have with democracy is every 4 years it can switch. Every 4 years, either we can be a good empire or we can be a bad empire. And I've lived through decades of it. I've lived through the 90s. And as I said, I try not to get into my experiences, but I've lived through the 90s when it was a bad empire. When the federal government was trying to take our weapons away from us, when the Clintons were trying to take our weapons away from us. I lived through that and I resisted it. And I survived it. Now we're a good empire, because an empire goes beyond its national borders to defend its interests and then bring in other lands and protect those lands, allow them to have sovereignty, but protect them from other bad empires. That's the reality of the world. If you only have one governing empire force in the world, it's going to fail, because it's failed before. The Romans tried it. Alexander the Great tried it. And when you get a one world, it goes bad. You need nations, and then the most powerful, just nation needs to be able to dominate its territory, and those territories which wish its protection, as now Venezuela does with us, as very soon Cuba will with us. And I believe by the province of God Almighty that the North American and South American continent will. Then President Trump's doctrine of global defense can be fully enacted. That's why we need 4 more years after Trump. But the golden dome is what he's calling it. That's why he needs Greenland. That's why he needs the north end of Greenland. And if you understand history, we claimed the north end of history. When Perry was an Arctic explorer, he went up there and he claimed the north end of Greenland because there's nobody living there. Even the I believe even the Eskimos that were there, they weren't called Eskimos there, but even the migrant people that would come through, they really didn't live in. There was just nobody there. It was the Arctic. We claimed it during World War I. We negotiated with Denmark because we needed one of the Virgin Islands in the Caribbean. We were afraid the Germans were going to get control of it, and we traded that part of Greenland. But not to get too deep into that, he's going to get it. And that's why he was talking about Canada being our 50 states, because he has to put a line of anti-ballistic missiles there. Once that line of ballistic missiles there is, China or Russia cannot send nuclear weapons, launch their weapons over the North Pole and hit us. We're protected. Then with the island barrier line from Guam through the Pacific Islands, where we occupy bases there, the Asian power cannot come across the Atlantic quick enough to get us. We can stop it in the Marianas and those islands. That's why we have to hold that. We hold that, the world will change. There will be our hemisphere, which will be based on Judeo-Christian natural rights, and there'll be whatever else the rest of the world. Probably Middle East will be controlled by Israel. Russia will probably control most of the Asian continent. China will eventually, we believe China, it's hard to tell what's going to happen with China. But China is the number one issue we're dealing with, and Trump knows that. Trump was cutting off their oil. Guys didn't realize it. Unless you really understood this stuff like I do, you didn't understand that he was cutting off the oil that was going on those straits. He can leave the straits of Hormuz closed. That's fine, because the oil ain't going out of China. 1 or 2 ships are going out. China's not getting their oil, and the Chinese people aren't going to put up with that forever. Well, I'll be speaking again here on Christian nationalism, and I attempt to go into it deeper, but if you do listen to me, I will try to focus on the most important issues for you to understand. Those of you that are Christian nationalists and don't even know it, which is a majority, understand what you can say, what you can speak to promote our culture, our way of life. So, that's it.